Over the past 2 years of playing pickleball, I have gone through multiple different paddle setups. I've been able to optimize my pickleball game by setting up my paddle in such a way that it makes my sweet spot feel absolutely massive, and it eliminates majority of mishits. I've been using the Selkirk Control Air Luxe for the last couple of months now, ever since it came out. I absolutely love it. I'm going to be showing you guys how I set this specific paddle up, but it applies to all paddles. If you'd like to pick up one of these paddles, you can use my code ADV-Playbook and you'll receive a $30 gift card after your purchase. Okay, so I'm going to start with the handle and we're going to move our way up all the way to the tip of the paddle with what I do to modify my paddle. So starting with the handle, I'll take off this Selkirk stock grip. It's nothing against the grip, it's just that you don't want to play straight up with this. You want to put an overgrip on top of this, otherwise this gets ruined and then you're down to the wood and now you've wasted this. But I actually take mine off and I put on a Hesicor overgrip. So it's this, I'm sure some of you may have seen these. I used this for the very first time right when the company first started. I think they were like 2 weeks old or so. And this was, gosh, over a year ago now when I first tried it, but absolutely love it. Really, really helps with everything. They do look gimmicky, and I remember when I first used these for the first time over a year ago, all my friends were making fun of me like, what is that, dude? Why does your handle look like that? But it absolutely helps with keeping your hand on the paddle and suctioning it to the paddle, because the whole point is to limit overall slippage. If your paddle's slipping out of your hand, you're going to slightly mishit the ball with your paddle. So I strongly suggest using these. If you guys look at this, the Undergrip, I don't know what it's called. It's all connected. It's all unibody with this paddle, which I absolutely love about it. There's no exposed polymer, so there's nothing like that you can squeeze here. It's just all one piece. So this is a paddle that's not going to snap at the handle. So if you guys can get paddles that have where it's connected all the way through, they'll last a whole lot longer. Anyways, that's a side note. I have this cup of water, and I'm going to put this onto my hands. It makes it so much easier to put the Hesicor grip on if you just wet this. I mean, you can do it without it. It's going to take like 30 minutes though. But just wet it. It might feel weird to you to wet your grip, but do it. It's worth it. So after you've wet it, you slip in these inserts on all 4 sides. And I have done this many, many times. This is the only thing that sucks, honestly, about this, is actually putting it on, because it takes like, I don't know, a couple of minutes just to put it on. But once it's on, it stays on there for the lifespan of your paddle. Typically, my paddles last me right around 6 months after I've modified them so that everything's protected and good. You know, so this will last you 6 months just for this grip. It's not like it's gonna break. Anyways, I put those around the 4 corners, wrap it around, and then I'm just pulling all of that down. And you're just pulling, using those inserts, and you just pull it all the way until it's flush with the actual handle there. Once you've done that, you can just literally pull the inserts out of the top. But as you can see, that grip just goes right on just like that, and then you can slightly adjust it however much you want. Make sure that you do your adjustments before you pull all of these little inserts out, otherwise you're not going to really be able to adjust it. I mean, you still will be able to, it's just a lot more difficult. So now that that is on, what you'll find is it is super slick. Okay, so you wouldn't want to just use this. After this, you want to actually put on an overgrip on top of it. Okay, so overgrip wise, I will typically use a Wilson overgrip, and today I'm actually using a Genesis overgrip. I will link the Wilson overgrip in the comments below. I don't have a link to the Genesis one. This is one that I've had just tons of Genesis grips in the past, so I have them. I wouldn't say that they're the best. The Wilson ones are the most affordable by far. I think it's like they're less than $1 a piece, maybe a little bit over $1 a piece, which if you want to go to any other company, especially like Turner Grip or something like that, it's going to be like $2 to $3 a piece, which is absolutely insane. And Turner Grip is the grip that doesn't slip, but I disagree. I think it is the grip that does slip. I don't really like Turner Grip at all. But anyways, this is how I'm setting it up. I just roll it on. I do this a bit differently than everybody else. I like to finish with actually the small side of the overgrip. I think that this is the best way to do it. I think it makes most sense, but do whatever works for you, because it's like you're finishing as it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, whereas other people will finish as it's getting bigger, as it's at its biggest point, and then you have to like cut it and stuff. And I'm just like, just start with the biggest and then you finish with the smallest, and it tapers off. You guys can see that on the camera. It tapers off perfectly. right at the end. By the way, everything that I'm using today will be linked in the description. You guys can go access for yourselves and buy if you wish. So then I'm actually going to use this Selkirk overgrip. This is typically what I'll do with my first one, and then when I have to replace my actual overgrip, my Wilson overgrip or Genesis overgrip, I'll have to use the one that they provide because this one will run out of stick. But hey, at least for the first time I get that sweet Selkirk, whatever it is, tape on top. So that is how you put on your overgrip. Make sure that you're pulling it really tight. That's one of the big things. And then if you guys can see this in the camera, I'll show you guys to this one. So like I was talking about before, my knuckle pads, each of them fit inside of all these grooves. Just really, really nicely. It suctions on, feels so good. And then my thumb fits inside of this one. So as I'm holding onto the paddle, everything just connects well. I will replace my overgrip, my Genesis or Wilson overgrip, every 2 weeks of actual playing. If I didn't play those 2 weeks, then obviously not, but of actual playing, every 2 weeks, minimum. And the reason that I like white so much is because it shows. It shows you when it's time to be replaced. So it'll turn into like a black color or dark color. The reason that you want to replace is to limit slippage, overall slippage, and also because it's just disgusting in general. If you continue to use the same grip over and over and over again, especially the stock grip, you're just pretty much grabbing your sweaty palm from 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago, whatever it is. Okay, so that brings us to lead tape placement as we move up the paddle. So I've tried various different positions with my lead tape. The point of lead tape is to shore up mishits. So typically what I do is when I mishit, it's up here. Okay, it's at these top edges, top of the paddle area. So since I mishit there, that's where you would want to put lead tape because that's going to help the overall twist weight and balance of your paddle so that it's not shaking as much so that you can shore up those mishits. If you're mishitting here on the sides, that's where you'd want to put your lead tape. And if you're mishitting down here at the throat, that's where you'd want to put your lead tape. I actually put my lead tape in the throat and I also put it up here at the sides because I mishit up here typically. And I put it in the throat because it helps with that overall twist weight and making my sweet spot massive. That being said, everybody always has some type of spot on their paddle that they mishit most often. So figure out what that is for you and then put the lead tape in those positions. So now I'm going to head into showing you guys how I actually set up my lead tape on my paddle. So I use this is linked in the comments. I don't even know what it's called, but it's a roll of lead tape. It's like 100 feet, I want to say. And it's an inch wide and it's 1 gram per inch. I am not so serious on like, oh, it needs to be exactly 5 inches. All that I'm serious on is that on one side it needs to be the same exact length as the other side. But I just don't have an exact. It's in between 4 and 5 inches. You guys can kind of see if you guys have a controller or Lux. It goes up to there. So then I get my second piece out and I'm just making sure that it's the same length as that one. And with my lead tape's kind of nice in the fact that, of course it's toxic and you're not supposed to actually handle it, but I do. I don't know why. I've tried wearing gloves, but it just doesn't seem to work. And this is all I do. I do these 2 pieces on either side of the paddle. And people have problems with the actual lead tape falling off of their paddle all the time. And so what I recommend doing is putting on an edge guard. And I'll show you guys my edge guard here in just a few, the one that I use. I'll start right at the X on my Lux. So that bottom X, I'll cover that up. The only thing that's sad about this is you have to cover, I mean, the edges of this paddle are like beautiful. But you have to cover them up. So that's the only thing that's a little sad. But I'll put it right there on the edge of my paddle. So it's like at the edge of the C, if you guys can see that on the camera there. So then I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm starting now at the bottom of the L because that's going to be in the same position as the bottom of the X on the other side. Okay, and it looks like on this side, it comes right to the A of Invicta. So I use the Invicta shape. There's actually 2 other shapes of this paddle you can get to. I use the Invicta because I have a 2-handed backhand. And I like extra length because my main problem is hitting the tip of the paddle. So I need extra length. So it makes the most sense for me. So now that those are all good and lined up, I want to make sure that they're all flush on because these will unstick unless you cover them up. Just over time, all of a sudden they'll unstick. You'll be like midpoint and a piece of lead will just fall off. So you want to make sure that you stick them on really good. Okay, so that's going to shore up my sweet spot. It's going to make my sweet spot feel huge. My mishits are up here at the top. So I'll typically do 1 to 2 inches on the top. And with this, I'll cover this Invicta sign. And then I'll cover the actual, it says like honeycomb, exposed, whatever. Fluoric carbon fiber face honeycomb polymer core. So I'll cover both of those with the actual lead, and this shores up my miss hits up there. So then I'm just covering that up. Start right at the end of that wording. If you guys can see there, the end of the wording. And obviously if you guys are using a different paddle, which nothing wrong with that, right? But I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you actually have that mishitting problem at the tip. Okay, so then I'm starting just above the edge of the black on the Invicta, the black outline. And now we are on both sides. Want to make sure that it's super nice and flush. And that is my lead tape placement. This helps to shore up miss hits up top. Also helps with a ton of control at the bottom. Okay, this brings us to the last section of my paddle setup. What I'll do is I'll put edge guard tape on top. And the specific edge guard tape that I use is 4th. And this is their collaboration with me, Pickleball Playbook. So this is the one that we created together. So this is the one that I use. But they have tons of different options. I'll be sure to link them in the comments. I mean, not in the comments, in the description. And yeah, first thing that I do is just peel off the sticker part so that it is sticky now. And best way to put this on is to line up the center of wherever that bend is where you want to line it up right at the center. So I will line that at the top. This is going to help to protect your edge guard of your paddle so that your paddle lasts a ton longer. So then I'm bringing this all the way down and I'm focusing on pushing down my edges as I go, getting these. I would not want to recommend to you guys anything that I wouldn't use myself, right? So this is all stuff that I've been using for quite a while. I want to make sure it's nice, flush. And now my lead tape is covered. That's the main thing. Oh, that is flush. I'm just smoothing it out around my edges. Anyways, that is how I set up my paddle. I hope that this has been helpful for you guys. Remember that everything that I talked about today is linked in the description. If you guys would like to buy a new Selkirk Lux, use code ADV-Playbook. And on another note, I recently created a system to absolutely dominate at the net. You can watch that here. Maybe it's linked over here. It'll be linked somewhere. You guys will be able to see it. I'll put it at the end of this video as well. You guys can click on there, watch that video, and learn how to dominate the net. All that being said, please be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.